and let them in here. So on behalf of the entire RAMAC staff, I want to thank you for attending our Business Matters chat this afternoon. As we do with all of these, we'll open it up to questions for the chief and the assistant chief. Anna's controlling the chat box. So if you have questions, please feel free to throw them into her, and she will get to those questions for both chiefs here. And we'll get as many of them answered as time allows. But to move it along, today we're pleased to have with us the Chief of Police, Maurice Robinson, and Assistant Chief Alex Ramirez, both new to Racine here. Normally at this time I would go through their bios, but I felt today with having both of these gentlemen who I've gotten to spend a little bit of time with and getting to know, I thought I'd let you hear from them directly, let them tell you about themselves and their backgrounds. I'm intrigued by both of these guys, and I welcome them to Racine. And without further ado, please let me welcome Police Chief Robinson and Assistant Chief Ramirez. Chief, take it away.
Good afternoon. I was about to say good morning, but I'm losing track of what time it is, especially when it gets dark so soon. My name is Maurice Robinson, and let me go check on my assistant chief because I heard a tap on my door. He may be having a problem with Zoom, so I'll just have him come in and join me.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like he fell off, so he might be having a connectivity problem.
He was having an audio problem, so he's just going to come in and join me in my office. I'm going to not worry about him having a mask. So
No problem.
I joined the Racine community in May 10th of 2021 after 18 and a half years as a member of the Cincinnati Police Department. And my assignments have included, my last assignment actually was commander of the criminal investigation section, which includes homicides, personal crimes, financial crimes. It has all the criminalists in it. And over that period of time, I've been blessed with a number of good investigations. I was a district commander for about a year of our headquarters location. I was a planning section commander, which gave me an some administrative experience. I was commander of the special investigation section, which was vice narcotics. That was interesting. I've been a patrol shift lieutenant. I was the first chief's adjutant as a lieutenant in the Cincinnati Police Department when James Craig was our police chief. I spent time as a sergeant in the vice unit, and time as a patrol lieutenant about 5 years, as a shift sergeant, a patrol officer, a district investigator. I've had a couple of commendations from the Cincinnati Police Department. I earned the Medal of Valor and the Medal of Personal Sacrifice in 2010 for an incident that involves a shooting where I and another officer were shot back in 2010 dealing with a motorcycle gang. So I am decidedly allergic to gunfire, break out in holes. So I've established that I'm not bulletproof, regardless of what people think. But that's a little bit of a background. I came to policing kind of circuitously. I didn't start until I was 49 years young. I came from a sales job with AT&T, and I made that decision because I felt like there were parents and citizens who could bring some of their other experiences to policing to deliver better police services to people, to all people. And being a father of 3 sons, I was concerned about the quality of policing that might be delivered to my sons if they encountered some officer who might feel some kind of way just because of who they are and how they look. So I decided I'd get in the game. So, and here I am 18 and a half years later. I came to Racine primarily because I was drawn to the 3-decade commitment to community and problem-oriented policing. And I'd never anywhere else seen the commitment to the extent that there are 6 distinct COP houses with officers dedicated to them to address specific problems in specific ways in specific neighborhoods. I'd never seen that anywhere before. And I thought, if I'm going to leave town, if I'm going to leave home, if I'm going to leave my wife at home, if I'm going to go police somewhere else and try to be a police chief and do a good job, that's the kind of place that I want to do this, because I've firmly believed that community and problem-oriented policing is the best way to deliver fair and impartial police services. And I wanted to be head of an organization that thought like that, and then take that to its next iteration, wherever that happens to be. And the reality of that is, I think every officer should be committed to that same philosophy, not just the officers that are assigned to a COP house or are a COP beat officer, that we all have a role to play, and that the things that we do should be designed to address a specific problem, not for the purpose of making an arrest. That arrest should be designed to stabilize the neighborhood that you're working in. It should be designed to fix a specific problem that you've identified with your community members. So that's kind of my philosophical look at it. One of the questions I got kind of asked is, what are the top 3 things you're working on right now? And AC Ramirez, myself, and the rest of my senior command staff, which, by the way, is with the exception of one commander, we're all brand new. We've had our jobs less than 6 months. So there was that much turnover in the Racine Police Department in the first 6 months of the year. We lost 21 members to retirement. That was a significant hit to our manpower. So one of my primary goals is focusing on recruitment and retention. Policing has become more difficult over the years. And over the last couple of years, it has even become more difficult thanks to social media and some bad actions of some police departments that have caused the entire profession to be painted with the same brush. We dare to be different in that respect. So I'm trying to make sure that I encourage my people, that they know that they are loved and appreciated and respected, that I want to give them the best possible training, the best possible equipment, and the best possible leadership. And they clearly and undoubtedly understand what I'm asking them to do as they go about doing this job every day. And then the other part is recruitment. We're trying to get a police department that looks a lot more like the community that it serves right now. Right now, we don't have as many women as I'd like to have in our department, and we don't have as many people of color as I'd like to have in the department that is representative of the demographics of the city of Racine. Having said that, I'm also looking for the most qualified people. So we will be going on recruiting trips. I've increased a little bit of the budget for recruiting and retention. We've done some things with a recruitment video that's been updated. We've refreshed our recruitment pamphlet that focuses not so much on the cop show aspect of policing, but the cerebral aspect of policing and the aspects of we're here to solve problems and make people's lives better. That's what we're trying to do. And then the other part of being the best that we could possibly be, AC Ramirez and I are taking a hard look at those activities that are consistent with best practices in policing. So we've taken a look at our policies, our procedures, and our training, and we've made some significant changes, we feel, on how we go about doing our job, but as importantly, the kinds of things that allow us to be accountable and transparent. I've recently reactivated a professional standards unit, which effectively gives me a risk management tool, which we didn't have right now. I've assigned a new lieutenant to that. We're going to enable some technologies that allow us to take a look at develop an early warning system to let us know whether or not an officer might be struggling with something in their professional life or their personal life. So we take a look so that I don't have a ticking time bomb in my ranks where I might be been able to have offered some help to someone to restore balance in their lives so that they go about the profession the way that they had intended to, that their personal life is not out of balance. We're looking at use of force reporting. We're looking at how we handle pursuits, how we handle even off-duty employment. Is someone working too much? These are all the things that you need to look at, that a modern police department needs to take a look at to make sure that the work-life ratio stays in balance, and that we, rather than throw an officer away, we are positioned to provide them with additional training and assistance to help them bring them more back to center so they can continue to do good work. So that's just kind of some of the things that we're thinking about. And, once we get all those things settled, and as we're doing that, we are constantly taking a look at and assessing community needs for policing and finding out where we determine our problems are, and what is the best method to go about addressing those problems so that we have a safer, more secure Racine that's respectful of all human life. So that's kind of my elevator speech, if you will, if you went to the 25th floor with stops in between. So I'll let AC Ramirez take the chair and we'll go from there.
They able to hear you?
Yes.
Good afternoon. Are you guys able to hear me?
Yep,
All right,
you're
I
all
got
good.
thumbs up. I got thumbs up, shaking of heads, ups and downs, and no no's, which is good. I mean, how do you follow that? I mean, I think that I could just say that Chief Robinson covered everything. I'm done and over with, but
Tell them how we met.
and I'll give you a little history of myself as well too. In 1983, I moved to Milwaukee, Wisconsin. That time to go to school. I ended up graduating from Marquette University and with my bachelor's, and I was selling Persian rugs and bartending at one of the places down in Milwaukee. And then shortly, right around 89, 90, they were recruiting for police officers. At that time, they were looking for a lot of police officers, many of which were Latinos or African Americans, and I decided to join. Having graduated with about a $36,000 debt to Marquette, I said, let me try out policing. Lo and behold, in 1991, I was hired. And I recently retired. When I say recently, I retired in August of 2020 after nearly 30 years there. However, though, I began my career just like any other officer as a patrolman, walking beats, answering calls for service, doing what we can in the community. About 4 years later, I got promoted to sergeant. 4 years after that to lieutenant. 15 years later to captain. And then I retired as an inspector, part of the executive staff with the Milwaukee Police Department. Throughout that whole time, I did work in a number of work locations, which included various district stations. We have 7 of them in Milwaukee. We also have, I worked in the Internal Affairs Division where I spent 3 times there. I was a captain on the South Side community where I was able to develop a neighborhood policing plan, which kind of was my foresight of why I wanted to become chief of police here in Racine. I worked in the Office of Management Analysis and Planning and oversaw the Administration Bureau, which are the logistics of the police department. I always considered the heartbeat of a police department. Everything that you knew, well, how does the buildings get cleaned? How do we have buildings? How do we dispatch people? Where do our property go? Where do we purchase our squads? All the little things. We have to have human resources. We have to hire people. So all those little things that I was able to oversee in my end of my career. I, like the chief, applied here sometime in latter part of 2020 and the early part of 2021, and ended up being the chief, and I became the finalists. As you could see, the chief's very articulate, and all the reasons why, I'm sure he got the job. He's very good and explaining things, and then I was ready to move on, but then I did get a phone call from Chief Robinson. Let me just backtrack. In 2017, Chief Robinson and I met while we were out in Boston. We were both in a professional development school of law enforcement for the Senior Management Institute of Police. We were out there for 3 weeks. And we actually had worked on a project together on collective bargaining. That was one of our projects within the class. So fast forward here, I'm noticing that when he became chief, I was telling my wife, I said, hey, I think I know this guy. I saw a picture of him without his hat. And I said, that's him. So I brought out my picture of the Senior Management Institute for Police. And sure enough, he's right there in the middle, and I'm about 2 people in front of him. It's always the shorter people in front, which is me. But anyway, we had met, and the chief had called me, and he had asked me if I wanted to come along and be part of his executive command. And of course, I said yes. And fast forward July 12th this year, I was appointed as Assistant Chief of Police. One of the things that I truly and wholeheartedly believe in is community policing. Racine, as you know, has the 6 cop houses. This is community-oriented policing at its finest. We tried to establish something like that in Milwaukee, but we weren't able to get it off the ground. We actually came to Racine to study it, and we got the playbook on the cop houses. But unfortunately, we weren't able to get it going to the point where I wanted it to be in such a short period of time. And there's a lot of things that go with that. Generally, it's a lot of the bureaucracy that goes along with when it comes to taking money, collecting money, or anything that's donated to the city. But regardless, I was able to, a little bit more about myself. I graduated from Marquette with the criminology and law studies. I also did my grad work there and graduated with my master in public service with the specialization in administration of justice. I went to the Senior Management Institute of Police with Chief Robinson, and also a graduate of the FBI National Academy in Quantico, Virginia. When it comes to community policing, what I wholeheartedly believe in is that in order, at its basic problem is this in policing is it's problem identification and then problem solving. That's the basic thing for policing. And Racine is, with its cop houses and that philosophy behind it, is that I think I could contribute some to that, bring in my expertise and be part of this team. The chief alluded to a number of things they've done already. We've changed a number of policy and procedures that are best practices in policing. And we don't just do it where, hey, it's, you wake up one day and say, hey, we're just going to change it for the heck of things. Heck, that's not how it works. We've actually brought in a team. We've had input from our own officers, so they get a buy-in and they have a input in what we do here on the 2nd floor. In Milwaukee, it was called the 7th floor, but here it's called the 2nd floor. But we get an input on what is good for Racine Police Department and what is the best possible service we can give to the citizens. We look at all the best practices, especially nowadays with what happened in 2020. And what's going on right now is the rethinking of policing, and we're a part of it. Racine's ahead of the game in a lot of these recommendations that's been given out by the mayor. But I think with the Chief Robinson has provided or come with that expertise, the big city departments, and me with Milwaukee, it is we can really move this department forward. It's interesting enough that, and just a little side note here is, when you come from bigger departments, you're like, go, 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 which is fine. But when you go into a much smaller department, it says, whoa, not so fast. Let's put on the brakes a little bit. So that's one of the things I've learned here in the last 3.5 months, that it's okay, Alex, take your time, things will happen, where sometimes that's a reality check for me that I got to slow down sometimes. And I think with the chief and his development of the executive staff, losing 21 people in May is a lot of people for a smaller department. And so you think about what kind of impact that has. We're doing everything to recruit within the community, recruit a diverse workforce, equity and diverse workforce, and I'm behind it 100%. So in a nutshell, that is who Alex Ramirez is. Just in case here.
No, stay right here.
All right. I'm gonna grab you. I'll go back.
My partner in crime. And we play golf together.
I don't know why.
I can attest to that.
I didn't say we played well, but we played together.
So who's
Well,
better?
So what can we answer for you?
So I don't know, again, a reminder, throw your questions into the chat box for Anna, but it's always kind of silent at this time. So I'll start it off and then everybody else can kind of jump in. Given everything that's gone on in our community and other communities around the United States, in the state of Wisconsin, what's going on down in Kenosha right now, you've seen a lot of talk about defunding police, reforming police, and different talk like that. That is taken its toll on many members of various police departments. I know it was an issue prior to you coming here with our current police department, as I had the fortune of going in and speaking with many of your patrol officers and some of your rank and file. My question is, how is the morale of the police officers doing today, especially with given everything that's going on? New chief, new assistant chief coming in. You're trying different things. How's everybody doing with it? Where are we at?
We're not doing badly, but we could do better. As Alex said, we've got a lot of things that we feel like we need to get done, some fairly quickly, because those are the things that can come back and bite you in the butt before you know it. And the next thing you know, I'm standing in front of a microphone, in front of a podium with 6 microphones from every network explaining why we did what we did. So some of the changes have to come quickly. Some things we had to make sure that we fixed. The morale is low and getting better. The reality of it is my people work an awful lot because of those 20 retirements, 14 of those were at the patrol officer rank. So there was a significant number of people. So people have to work an awful lot of overtime, and we're working with the unions, with patrol committees, and with the negotiators on the mayor's side to try to come up with a work schedule that allows us some kind of work-life balance, but allows us to get our job done with what we have right now. We've made progress in that. I think in June or July, we've got 11 new people in the academy, but that's just to try to catch up. But I've also since had, I think, 2 resignations, and I've got people looking because our work schedule is tough right now. So I'm bringing them in the front door, but I'm losing some off the back of the wagon. I have to try to stop that. So to say that everything is perfect, it absolutely is not. We are giving them the best equipment possible. I just got approved in my budget to engage Axon services for different body-worn cameras and tasers and squad cameras, because it gives me an audit tool, and also gives me a tool that allows me to be more responsive and more transparent and more accountable if we have to show body-worn camera footage of what one of my officers did. We've engaged and made decisions on technology called signal sidearm, where, let's say in a rapidly evolving situation, the officer forgets to tap on the body-worn camera, but if you pull a taser or a firearm, a Bluetooth signal will turn that on. So I can find out what happened and defend my officer's actions from the very beginning, as opposed to somebody across the street whose cell phone started 45 seconds late and they didn't see the beginning of it. We saw that in, what department was that?
That was
it Caledonia?
Caledonia, where
Right, there was an accusation that a police officer had planted drugs on someone. In reality, he made a bad decision about where to put something he took off of somebody, back in his pocket instead of in the car. But that body-worn camera from the beginning exonerated that officer's actions. I need to make sure that I can do that for my people to show them the support. And so those are the kind of things we're trying to do, and come up with creative ways of scheduling so we can reduce the workload on our youngest officers, who by seniority have to do the most compulsory overtime. So those are the most vulnerable, the ones we're likely to lose first. And I don't want them to become disenchanted or disenfranchised with the profession.
Okay. Anna, you want to grab the chat box?
Right, so hopefully I'm not too echoey, I apologize. So
Fine.
what is the current size of the police force, and what may be a target number for you?
We're currently staffed at 174. We're authorized for 189. We have I have a meeting with Police and Fire Commission tomorrow. I think I've got 7 candidates that I'm going to present to the Police and Fire Commission tomorrow. And I made an offer yesterday morning to a young man who was on my last list, but did make the cut the first time. So I could potentially add another 8 or 9 officers into the academy coming up in January. So we're catching up. But once they go through 18 weeks of training and then a field training officer rotation and their probation, it's 18 months, a year, 18 months before they're actually a full-fledged weight-bearing officer.
Great, thank you for that. So coming from Cincinnati, Milwaukee, different communities, is there anything you can compare the Racine community to as you see it through that lens? I mean, you both said you were impressed with the community policing, which is wonderful, but you know, compare the Racine community as you see it to Cincinnati and Milwaukee, or something that's completely opposite, maybe too.
As bad as we think crime is here, this is nothing. When I left Cincinnati in May, I was a homicide commander. I had 19 homicides we were investigating in May. Year to date, we have 9 in Racine. Now, I got 2 the first weekend I was here, which made me a little concerned about what the heck just happened. But
All right, this is Alex. I know I'm kind of, you can see me right away. Here we go. But the comparison I see is in Milwaukee, there are 7 police districts, and each of them vary anywhere from 50,000 up to 120,000. I had the fortunate to run one of the districts, it's 88,000, and I compare that to Racine in the sense of you have 88,000 residents. You have a lot of people that are nonprofit, that are very involved in the community, various associations of neighborhood organizations, grassroots organizations, and Racine has very similar to that. There's a lot of community support here in Racine, which is, I think, valuable when it comes to the policing aspect of it. I know that, Matt, you alluded to for me that there is a national narrative there of, first of all, trying to get police officers to hire police officers is very tough. Here in Racine, in Milwaukee, I'm used to having an academy, 3 classes of 60 go each year. Here in Racine, we're kind of limited to the number of candidates and to looking for candidates in and of itself. We only can hold 10 candidates per class here, and we have to work with one of the local universities. That's kind of a little barrier to us, and you can only do that twice a year. I know at this time we do hire our REL. We look at lateral transfers, which you cannot do in Milwaukee. You can do that here in Racine, but again, we have those struggles there of people wanting to come to Racine for a number of reasons. Right now, you have 21 people leaving, 24 people leaving in this May. Now it creates more workload for everybody else. Our cops are going from assignment to assignment to assignment. Their work schedules are a little bit of they're working overtime, and we gotta watch out for the health. In Milwaukee, same thing. We were short on a number of shifts, but we struggle the same way in the sense that, yeah, it's a much larger city. Yes, we have about 1,800 officers, but each district has got a limited number of officers. In Milwaukee, where I was at, 159 officers, but you have a lot more support with the investigative bureau, the administrative bureau, all that part of it. But the similarities are, in a sense, it's policing is the same. Our overall crime is down here. We do measure our crime, but what's refreshing here is it almost has that small town feeling when you know a lot of people, and I truly appreciate that. And Matt, I just wanted to allude to one of the things about morale. And a lot of people think morale is just a supervisory responsibility. It's everyone's responsibility. Mm-hmm. And when we're trying to institute new changes or bring in new tools, changes in procedures that aren't going to be throwing people upside down, we do have here in Racine and Chief, we bring in a lot of people, a lot of officers, the people that have historical knowledge of the Racine Police Department help us make these changes. So it's not just Maurice and Alex making these changes. We have a buy-in from others that are helping us institute these new challenges. So in Milwaukee, you didn't get that so much because it's much larger. It's more up, down. Here you have, you have the up, down, but you also have the across the board, which we get some of our people that have that knowledge and help us make some of our decisions.
Well, and I think it's important, and I know the business community puts this out there for you guys as well. You have the support of the business community, and I think that goes a long way with your officers. We welcome them anytime to stop into our businesses. They're always welcome, and they have our support 100%. So you can continue to send that message to them.
Thank you.
That's truly appreciated.
It's interesting you say that. One of the ideas that I have, and sometimes they have to tackle me by my shoelaces and slow me down, is I want to be in a position where I can create a downtown services unit maybe within the next 18 months. And what that means to me is I've got somewhat of a COP philosophy in the downtown business corridor that's, 3 or 4 officers that are either on bike or on foot. And they get to know not only my business owners, but one of the challenges we're having is the homeless population. And being homeless is not a crime, but crime is a crime. So and for those people that have mental health challenges, that we know them well enough to know when something's not quite right, and we can refer them to the right set of services to get them help rather than arrest them.
Right.
So building all of that kind of relationship. So I've got some other work I've got to do first. I've got to get my manpower up so that I can peel off, 3 people and a boss to be able to allocate to that. But that is absolutely one of the things that I've got on the drawing board for a near future, if you will, plan to give a little bit more focus to the downtown area and to help out that corridor. And we were looking at realigning our patrol just areas to let us use the people that I have right now. So we're getting I tell people the only bad idea is the one I don't hear.
Well, I do appreciate the proactive approach versus the reactive approach. So that's refreshing to hear. So thank you. Anna?
Yeah, you answered actually one of our questions here. We are in downtown and we have seen some things happening. So I really appreciate you giving some insight to some of your plans. So you've mentioned a few, your new cameras. I'm sure I'm not saying that correctly. Maybe this downtown unit, like you said. Anything else, again, with a fresh set of eyes here? Anything else that Racine may need?
Well, someone brought one other small thing to our attention, but Alex and I both started thinking about it, and that was there was a concern about the speed of traffic going down Main Street. And he and I both live downtown, so we're Racinians. And we literally looked up and thought, okay, I'm driving down the street. Where the hell's the speed limit sign? And we counted 2 signs, both directions between State and 7th Street. Is that about right?
That's correct.
But from Main Street on 6th to the
Washington
roundabout,
Circle.
there were 6. So people need to be reminded and aware of what the speed limits are. And we're going to work with traffic engineering to make sure that the lights are syncopated differently so people are not trying to speed to get through the next intersection, to make it a little bit more safe.
Yeah, I'm sure, because we all drive it every day. I couldn't even tell you what the speed limit is in downtown. 25? I'm
Yeah.
guessing 25, maybe. I don't know.
25.
Yeah, there's one at Red Onion going northbound, and the other is
Between the State and the 400 block going southbound at 25, right by where the speed board is at, right?
but that's all you see. And
Sure, yeah. And
if
if
you
you're
blink, you miss that, and you go, what the hell's the speed
Yeah,
of-"
and if you're a
30's good,
tourist,
right? Yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
not from the area, you don't have any idea. So,
Not a clue.
yeah. So there's a question here that I don't even know what this is. So, thank you, Lisa, for bringing this up, because I don't know what this is. What are your thoughts on Campaign Zero and aligning to their proposed policies?
I
Is that
don't know what
DOT?
campaign
Are
zero.
you talking with
wanna-
the traffic, State Patrol and
So-
that Campaign Zero?
Yeah, the Campaign Zero, that is the activists regarding policing reform. So it's modeled off of Barack Obama's 21st century policing reforms. Talks about eliminating broken window policing, to eliminate the federal partnership to be getting army, military equipment in the in the community policing, as well as eliminating quotas on having to give so many tickets out to the community, those types of change and reform.
I think I actually answered part of that before. What I'm not looking for is performance evaluations and monthly evaluations that are based on how many arrests did you make, how many citations did you write. What I want to know is, did the action that you take, will that help stabilize the neighborhood? So I want any activities to be problem specific. We don't have any surplus military hardware. We do have a SWAT team. We do have a piece of equipment that we actually need in the event that we have an active shooter barricaded subject, which is consistent with other SWAT team members, other SWAT team activities. The activities that we've engaged in that are in conjunction with the Mayor's Reform Task Force from 1990 and into 2019 and 2020 are essentially best practices in policing that we engage in Cincinnati, that they engage in Milwaukee, that we believe in, that are simply best practices for 2021 and the things that society expects us to do when delivering police services. I think I answered most of that question.
You did, thank you.
So there is a question here, pretty specific about active shooter education or training. And RAMAC has actually provided that to some of our members. But the question is, does the police department have any recommended resources for this? This is one of the people on the call here for a local church. Is that something that people can reach out to you about, or are there other resources for that?
I think our training section has put together a segment on active shooter that can be delivered to different community organizations. Either now the challenge is with COVID, can we bring people together like that? So maybe what we can do then is some kind of a Zoom call doing some active shooter training on a stand-up basis as a way of responding to that need, should we be tasked with that. But we certainly have the talent available and the materials available to conduct active shooter training.
Earlier this summer, might have been late spring, early summer, we did have the Racine Police Department put on the active shooter training for our businesses. We opened it up to our businesses to attend, and we had it right here downtown in one of the local establishments. But that was pre-mask. No masks and things were required at that time, but the officer that did it did a very good job. It was very popular.
I was going to say hat tip to the Officer Anderson. It was.
Yeah, he's one of our COP officers. He's since rotated back into a patrol assignment, but given that he's very outgoing, very engaging, and very approachable, and very knowledgeable.
And we appreciate you acknowledging him in that. Yeah, I mean, your annual report or bulletin that you put out, or magazine that we received here, and you mentioned Chad Anderson for providing the training. So we appreciate that. It's always good when our officers get recognized, and we let him know that as well.
Good. There was
that
another
session recorded at all? Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
I was just curious if that was recorded at all, that session, or no?
No, we did
No,
not
it
record
wasn't.
that.
No.
No.
Okay. Okay.
If you want to talk to
No,
us a
we-
little offline too, we can, help with your questions about that. So no problem there.
Yeah, you bet.
But
Thanks.
I wanted to make sure that you knew there was another shout out from Lisa at Aurora. It has been a pleasure partnering with Officer Rachel Gardner with the cop houses. So I wanted to make sure I read that for you. Uh-oh, did we lose them?
Nope, they're still there.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
we're
sorry,
here.
my view changed, sorry. Okay, so we have someone from RUSD on the call, and Jody mentioned she's looking forward to launching a partnership next fall. She used an acronym that I don't know what it means, but it's something about teaching intro to criminal justice and criminal law to their high school academy students. So I'm wondering how you are involved with the schools or with RUSD, or if Jody, if you want to chime in on anything. School resource officers is what she was
Right.
referring to.
Yeah, so people are typically familiar with the concept of school resource officers. We took somewhat of a different slant on it in that we exported our COP model into the schools. So we are doing a restorative kind of, let's separate criminal activity from activities that the school could handle that doesn't result in a pipeline to prison for certain students. And what we're also doing too is we are putting together an Explorer program for 7th and 8th graders and a cadet program for 9th grade to 12th grade. And the cadet program really is part of my strategic hiring program, because ideally what we'd like to be able to do is to be able to hire them after they get out of high school, have some summer work for them. We've got we actually have a budget item for it that lets us pay them $15 an hour so they can put some money in their pockets while they're going to school in the summertime through college, and can eventually, if they're interested, become a Racine police officer. So it's a long-term recruiting goal from that perspective, but also being engaged in the services academies. And there's fire services, there's police services, and there's several other services that for children that may not want to go to college, but want to get a skill. So we are partnering with Racine Unified and with Jody and her team to put that together, so that not only do we have a recruiting tool for people to become Racine police officers, but local residents to become Racine police officers. So we're trying to encourage that behavior.
Fantastic. So one last, we usually kind of end right around this 45-minute, but I have one more question. It's nice to hear, okay, crime is low, and especially, you know, coming from bigger cities, that's good to hear. However, 9 homicides is still too many for a lot of people that live here. So any insight? It seems like everything I read is these are people not from here. Is it gang, you know, is it gang related? Is there anything we should be watching out for? Any advice? It seems like all of the bad guys are coming through Racine from elsewhere. So any advice, any way that common people can help or just be a resource?
Yes, I could shed a whole lot of light on that. Most importantly, of the 9 homicides that we've had, our closure rate is, I think, 85%, which is 20 some points above the national average. Several of the homicides are related where the people knew each other. And one was, I committed a crime because you offended me before, and now somebody kills me for killing you. Some of them were drug related. So other than that, I don't think we've had a single just random. We had one shooting that was where we had a genuinely innocent victim, and still there was some interaction between the shooter and the victim themselves. It was someone took offense to something, but the person that was a victim was not involved in crime. So our average citizens don't have to worry about that kind of behavior. So many of these are co-involved, and their relationships that were established before that. This is not happening to a garden variety person going about their business and going to work every day.
Well, thank you for that.
And he made a valid point. The troubling trend that we're seeing is, I think easily 5 or 6 out of our 9 homicides or victims were people under the age of 20. So nationwide, even talking to my former chief in Cincinnati, Elliot Isaac, who's due to retire within the next 6 months or so, said he's never seen as many people under 20 involved in homicide, either being the victim or the assailant, in his 30-year career. I don't know. So my appeal has been to the mothers, the fathers, the aunts, the uncles, the people that have a lot more sway over what these young people will do than I will ever have, because I'm after the fact. In essence, I'm gently saying, raise your children, show them that they are loved, show them that they have potential, and encourage them not to waste that potential.
Yes, I know a group got together and started like a basketball tournament, and it was all a very peaceful, loving place for younger people to be. And I think that was really successful. So I'm glad that our community is doing those sorts of things and coming together in that sense. So one other little question, we don't have to get deep into it because of controversy, but are you being called upon to support Kenosha at all with the trial that's going on down there?
Not directly. We are prepared if we have to deploy a crowd control team, but Governor Evers made the decision to stand up 500 National Guard persons, so it should take it out of our hands.
How do they, that's a great point, putting the National Guard up, but help us understand, and I know I have questions regarding it. They're standing by in Waukesha. Wow, that seems pretty far from Kenosha.
I didn't even know where they were standing by, so maybe they got helicopters. I don't know. Right, a whole lot. I don't know what the length of the drive is from Waukesha to Kenosha. I admit
It's about an hour.
Yeah, I mean, you can start to see pretty quickly if something's going to get out of control. Now, what has to happen is the command and control that's on the ground there has to recognize that the temperature is changing and make the call and not hesitate.
Gotcha.
But we
Okay.
can hold the line with local resources until the guard has to be involved.
Okay. Thank you for that. I was curious as I was hearing that on the radio the past couple of days. I'm like, why not at Mitchell Field, right at the, the hangar where they've got space?
Well, but then now you're spending money because you actually deployed them.
Yeah, I suppose. All right, Anna, any other questions?
Yeah, it's a little out of left field a little bit, but as far as facilities go, there's a safety building. Gretchen, I'm assuming you mean the city annex building. Is there anything?
No,
kind of-
actually, the safety building where the chief is sitting right now.
Oh, so what do you mean? So continue your question, Gretchen. Like, what plans
So,
for?
what, I know there were plans for the safety building for, I don't know, I heard all sorts of different things about demolishing it and starting over, refurbing it and making it larger, having a larger footprint. And I just haven't heard a lot about that recently. And I was just wondering where it's all at.
I haven't been part of that conversation. I haven't heard anything. I've heard about the plan that was in place, but the elephant in the room is having the revenue to be able to build probably a $30 or $40 million facility with a budget where we don't have money.
Okay, thank you. That resonates for sure.
I would love to preside over a new building.
Me too.
Yeah, I just, that's funny she brought that up because I even just drove by to the city hall annex building, and even just the sign, just the police department sign is, it's, it could be brighter and shiny. So good point.
The good news is when I got here, the damn sign wasn't working. I had light bulbs changed.
See, there
It
you
wasn't
go.
lit at night. It wasn't lit at night. I thought, no, we can do better than that.
See, fresh set of eyes. That's
No.
all you need is fresh
Yeah.
set of eyes. Well, there are no other
right.
questions. And like I said, we usually keep it to about 45 minutes to an hour. So we're good to go there, Matt.
All right, Chief, Assistant Chief, I want to thank you both for joining us today. We appreciate your time. We know it's valuable. We can't thank you enough for carving out 45 minutes to an hour for us. Again, if there's anything the business community can do for you, the police department, please let us know. And we'll happily jump in. And again, if your officers are out and about, they're welcome to stop by here anytime. Just let us know. I also want to thank everybody else for participating today and submitting your questions. As a reminder, our next Business Matters chat is going to take place on Wednesday, December 15th. Our guest that day will be Dr. Parisa Maymond of St. Catherine's High School. She'll be talking about education there over at St. Catherine's. And with that, I want to thank you all again and tell you, enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you so much for having us. We
Thank
enjoyed
you.
it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care now.
Bye.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.